Welcome back to yet another edition of Cover's Bowl Betting Preview Show, where we will be breaking down each and every bowl game this season. I am Andrew Cayley, joined as always by my good friend Brad Powers. Brad, we're down to the big ones, college football playoff semifinals. And we get to start off with a classic matchup in the Rose Bowl. Two blue blood programs, number 4 Alabama taking on number 1 Michigan. Another undefeated season for the Wolverines, where it kind of feels like if they don't get the job done and win a national title this season, I'm not sure if it's ever going to happen in this Jim Harbaugh era right now. And of course, standing in their way, Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide following an upset of Georgia in the SEC title game. What angles are you looking at in this epic college football matchup?
I'm going best bet. Alabama here. And when I say best bet, we've done 40 of these bowl previews. This is my favorite bet on the board. It might seem a little square, but I like Alabama here. I like the trend lines. I think that are in my favor. But first, let's just talk. You mentioned what are some of the trends and stats that I'm looking at. Let's talk about what Nick Saban does in the postseason since 2015. And I'm not counting the national title games because that's not a typical postseason game because you basically have the same amount of time of prep. It's like 8-9 days as you would a regular season games. I'm talking about the games where he has 4 weeks and his army of analysts. They have the biggest staff in college football because they have former head coaches that are basically just guys that watch film on their staff. How has Nick Saban done? How about 8 straight wins? 8-0. Average margin of victory, 21 points per game. Average cover of 10 points per game, exceeding Vegas expectations in those games since 2015. How does Jim Harbaugh do and with extra time to prep? Not so well. 6 straight bowl losses for him. So I think that's a major advantage, Alabama. On top of that, I question Michigan's offense right now in current form. Now, maybe they can fix it in the 30 days in between games, but as the competition level for Michigan got a lot tougher in their last 4 games, and you don't believe me, look at their first 8 games and who they played. Nobody. Offense was fine. Last 4 games just so happened to be the 4 toughest opponents they faced this year. Michigan's offense is averaging 282 yards per game. 282. Where would that rank in college football? How about number 129? I see a lot of struggles on the offensive line, injuries at tackles. The guard, the All-American guard, got hurt in the Ohio State game. J.J. McCarthy's not pushing the ball down the field. I don't think Michigan's wide receivers can get separation against Alabama's defensive backs. The running back duo of Corum and Edwards look great on paper, but they are a far cry from what they were a year ago if you look at yards per carry. So I don't think the Michigan offense is going to have much success. And as long as Jalen Milroe plays a clean game, I think Alabama.
That's what I was going to get to you. Jalen Milroe, I think that's the one question, right?
Yeah.
Like his arm is always like it's super talented, big arm, obviously one of the highest yards per completion in college football this year. But he does sometimes it's funny with him when his feet are set is when I think he has his most trouble sometimes.
Yep.
And he's going to be kept in the pocket by this Michigan pass rush. And at times that offense can stall out. We saw it against Auburn. We saw it a bit against Georgia. And Michigan might have arguably the best defense they've seen all season. But you still have confidence in Milroe in this spot?
Yeah, he's obviously playing his best ball down the stretch. He should be super confident. I know the Auburn game wasn't a great look, but the fact, hey, give him credit. When he needed to complete a pass in the corner of the end zone for them to be in this game, he did so. I thought his confidence started changing in the LSU game where they really relied on him and obviously allowed him to start running more. If you look, that's where he's been more comfortable. He's been running more the last 4 or 5 games. And, I could see why they were kind of afraid to run him all season when you got questionable quarterback depth. Don't believe me? Look at what Alabama did without Milroe against South Florida in the one game this season. There is a reason why Michigan's favored here. I mean, and that is Alabama hasn't been its usual dominant self. But I got to tell you, when they've had to step up in class this year, and you're talking about their high-profile game against LSU and Georgia down the stretch, they did so. And a lot of the reason why they won was Jalen Milroe. So I'm going to be confident in him at this point.
100%. And some other things that I really thought you hit the nail on the head there was the Michigan really hasn't seemed to trust JJ McCarthy in these big games.
Yeah.
They didn't throw the ball in the second half against Penn State. And he's only thrown for more than 25 passes, I think a handful of times this season. So I think he's going to have to pass in this one. And like you said, I don't think those Michigan wideouts are going to be able to do much against this Alabama secondary. And I think that and Milroe will be a big difference here. So there you have it. Alabama plus 1.5 in the classic Rose Bowl. For more free bowl picks this season, please head on over to covers.com.